I thought it was just a shortcut, a quiet back road through the woods that would save me 20 minutes. But the road didn't want to let me go. No matter how far I drove, the same mile kept returning, and something in the fog was getting closer each time. This is my story, the road you should never take. Greetings, every shadow hides a story. Welcome. Under the Bed. It happened in late October, on a county road that cuts through a strip of pine forest between Riverton and the old mining town of Grays Hill. It was a Thursday, damp and cold after a day of rain. It happened to me, Alex, alone in a 10-year-old sedan with a weak heater and a windshield that loved to fog up. I was driving home after a late shift, taillights thinning behind me, the kind of night when every sound on the roadside feels like it leans in to listen. A road crew had blocked the main highway with flashing signs and sawhorses. My phone chirped, recalculating, and showed a thinner gray line that shaved 20 minutes off the detour. The line slid over a road I had never taken. The name on the map was County 17, but in the gas station at mile marker 81 the older attendant called it something else when I asked for directions. After 11, "Don't go out there," he said without looking up from a ledger. "If you do, keep moving. Don't pull over for any reason." He handed me coffee like it was a warning. The bell on the door clacked as I walked back into the wet air. I told myself it was local superstition and nothing more. County 17 opened like a wet ribbon, dark pines bristling on both sides, the fog low and moving. The yellow centerline narrowed, then bled away. My phone lost 2 bars, then all of them. The radio hissed into freight static. I fixed my eyes on the reach of the headlights, watched them smoke across the road and catch on reflector posts, pale and intermittent like teeth. 10 minutes in, I saw the first sign something was off. The speed limit sign looked singed along one edge, scorched up to the numbers. A mile later a gust pushed fog across the hood and the car felt light for a moment, the steering a shade too loose, as if the pavement had turned to silt. The engine note changed. Not a stall, not yet, just a soft lowering like a breath pulled thin. I tightened my grip and told myself I was imagining it. When the road dipped, my beams slid over glass ahead. A car was sitting on the shoulder with its hazard lights blinking, slow and stubborn. The orange pulses climbed the trees and died. I eased off the gas. The attendant's warning nodded in my head, but the idea of passing someone stranded in that fog felt wrong. I coasted within 30 feet and rolled the window down a crack. No movement. The car was an older model, sedan like mine, color hard to tell in the damp light. Door handles beaded with water. The blinkers clicked. I called out, a steady voice I didn't feel. No answer. I set the shifter in neutral and reached for the hazard switch. My thumb hesitated. "Keep moving," the old man had said. I looked at the rear seat in my mirror out of habit before opening the door. The mirror showed only the smudged outline of my own headrest and the back window fogged at the edges. When I looked forward again, the hazard clicks from the other car were no longer in rhythm with my heartbeat. They lagged, then caught up, an off measure that made the fog seem to lift and settle with each blink. "Hello," I called again, stepping out. The cold caught in my throat. Wet pine and something faintly metallic hung in the air. I took 2 steps toward the other car and saw that its engine wasn't running. The headlights were dark. Only the hazards pulsed, a tired orange heartbeat. There were no footprints on the wet shoulder. No fresh tracks except the crescents cut by my own tires. I leaned, squinting through the passenger window. The interior was empty. Seats dark with damp. A child's car seat sat in the back, straps undone and twisted as if hands had rushed through them. A small knitted glove lay beside it, palm up. My own engine coughed. Not once, but in a short series, as if someone had turned the key half a notch. I turned back so fast I slipped on the gravel and caught myself on the door frame. The sedan idled, then dipped so low I thought it had died. I slid into the seat, shut the door, and twisted the key. The engine fluttered, then steadied, but the dash lights pulsed with the same slow rhythm as the hazards in the fog. I put the car in drive. The brake pedal felt softer than it had a minute ago. I glanced into the rear view and stopped breathing. The back seat cushion had a shallow depression in the middle, a small shape, the kind weight leaves in damp fabric. I blinked hard. The glass was fogging again. When I wiped it with my sleeve and looked once more, the cushion was flat. Maybe it had always been flat. I told myself it had. A last look at the stranded car. One of the hazard lights flickered, lingered too long, then snapped back to rhythm. I pulled onto the pavement, tires spitting grit. As I passed the other sedan, my headlights slid across its trunk. For a blink there was the shape of a handprint smeared in the wet, small and imperfect, like a hand had pressed from inside, but when my beams swept back the metal showed only rain. I drove on. The fog drew closer, a slow tide. The road narrowed until it felt like one lane for two lives. Behind me, the orange blinkers faded, and the engine's breath leveled. I told myself I had done the decent thing and the smart thing, both at once. I told myself not to look in the mirror again. The rain had stopped, but the mist that came after was worse. It was the kind that clung to the windshield and swallowed the beam of your headlights no matter how bright they burned. I was 20 minutes down County 17, or at least that's what I thought. The odometer said I'd barely moved. The road seemed endless, the same bent trees on both sides, the same curve that never ended. The radio was nothing but a hiss now. The phone on the seat beside me blinked or read no signal. My coffee from the gas station had gone cold. I kept both hands on the wheel, fighting a rising sense that the forest was leaning closer. That's when I heard it, faint at first, almost a trick of the engine noise. A sound that didn't belong. It came again. A child's cry. Thin, sharp, and distant. I slowed down and turned the air vents off. Silence filled the car, and under it, the crying returned, a small, broken voice drifting through the fog from somewhere ahead. I couldn't tell if it was real or echoing inside my head. I pressed the brake gently, the car rolling to a stop. The wipers squealed across the glass. The sound came again, closer now, from the right side of the road. My hand hovered over the door handle. The old man's voice echoed in my head, "Don't stop. Don't pull over." But what if it was real? What if some kid was hurt, lost out here? I opened the door. Cold air rushed in, wet and heavy with pine and something faintly burnt. I stepped out, the gravel crunching under my boots. The fog made the headlights bloom like flares, lighting only a few yards ahead. "Hello?" I called. "Is someone there?" The crying stopped instantly. The silence that followed was worse. I stood still, trying to hear anything, wind, animals, the hum of power lines, but there was nothing. Only the faint tick of my engine cooling. Then, faintly, soft footsteps. I turned toward the sound. Small prints dotted the wet asphalt, bare feet, tiny, no more than a child's. They led toward the trees. I crouched to look closer, my breath fogging the air. The footprints were fresh, water still pooled inside each one. I straightened up quickly. "Hey! Wait!" No answer. Just a low rustle in the brush. When I turned back to my car, I froze. Through the fogged rear window, something moved, just a shift of shadow, like someone adjusting in their seat. My door was still open. I walked toward it slowly, my heart climbing into my throat. The headlights dimmed once, then brightened again. My reflection in the glass looked pale and wrong. I leaned down to see inside. The back seat was empty. The fabric looked darker, though, damp, like someone had sat there in soaked clothes. I slid back into the driver's seat, shut the door, and locked it. The crying had stopped. The air inside felt heavy, pressing in around me. I turned the key. The engine hesitated, coughed, then roared back to life. The dashboard lights flickered, and for half a second, in the rearview mirror, I saw it. A child's face. Pale. Wet. Eyes wide and dark like holes. It was there just long enough for my brain to believe it, then gone when I blinked. I gripped the steering wheel hard and slammed the gas. The car lurched forward, tires spitting water. The road bent, disappeared into more fog. My hands shook. I kept glancing at the mirror, afraid to see it again, and more afraid not to. A voice came through the radio static then, faint, almost whispering, blending with the white noise. It wasn't words, not at first, just sounds. Then, slowly, it formed a sentence. "Don't leave me here." My stomach turned cold. I reached to turn the radio off, but the knob wouldn't move. The voice came again, quieter, like it was sitting in the back seat, just behind my right shoulder. "Don't leave me." The rearview mirror fogged from the inside. My breath hitched. I didn't dare look again. Then, just as suddenly, it all stopped. The radio went silent. The fog thinned. I could see the road stretching ahead again, straight and empty. I told myself it was exhaustion, nerves, imagination. I needed to get off this road. Just reach the next intersection, any sign of life. But when I checked the clock on the dash, it still said 12:03, the same time it had when I left the gas station. The road felt like it was folding in on itself. No matter how far I drove, the same trees kept passing, the same curve kept returning. I could have sworn I'd seen that crooked oak 3 times already. My headlights cut through the fog, but the air ahead stayed the same pale gray, endless and repeating. The clock on the dash still said 12:03. It had been that way for I didn't know how long. My phone was dead now, the battery drained even though it had been nearly full when I left the gas station. I tried to hum, to fill the silence, but my voice came out thin and shaky. A mile marker appeared on the right, the number was half scratched off, just a faded 6. 10 minutes later, I passed it again. The same dent in the metal, the same mud splash on its base. I gripped the steering wheel until my fingers ached. Something wasn't right. Then I saw it, the same abandoned car. Its hazard lights weren't blinking anymore. It sat tilted on the shoulder, one door slightly open, as if someone had stepped out and never returned. My stomach turned. I could see the outline of the child's car seat in the back again, lit faintly by my beams. I slowed down. As I passed, I noticed something new, a small stuffed bear on the hood. The rain had flattened its fur, the left eye missing. I didn't remember it being there before. My headlights flickered. The engine sputtered once, twice. The temperature gauge needle trembled even though the air outside was cold. "Not now," I muttered. Then, through the fog, a sign appeared ahead. Bent metal, black letters barely legible through grime. "Do not enter." It stood on the right side of the road, half hidden by bushes, scorched along one edge. It looked burned. I slowed to a crawl. Behind the sign, the trees leaned in tighter, branches like arms reaching across the lane. That's when I saw the light. A single white beam shone deep between the trees, like a flashlight waving back and forth. Someone was in there. I rolled down the window a crack and called out. "Hey! Are you okay?" The light froze. Then, slowly, it turned toward me. The beam pointed directly at my car for a few seconds before dipping down and vanishing completely. A chill ran through me. The fog began to thicken again, closing in like smoke. I shifted into reverse, but the car didn't move. The wheels spun uselessly. The gas pedal felt soft, unresponsive. From somewhere in the mist, a faint tapping started, on the trunk. 3 slow knocks. Then silence. I didn't breathe. Another knock. Louder this time, closer. I glanced at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone standing there. Nothing but fog. I got out. The air was freezing, heavy. My breath came out in short, sharp bursts. I walked to the back of the car. Nothing. But in the layer of dew that coated the trunk, I saw it clearly, a small handprint. Too small for an adult. The outline perfect, fingers pressed deep into the wet metal. I backed away. The forest around me was dead quiet. No wind, no birds, no insects. Then a whisper broke it. A voice, close to my ear though no one was near me. "Give it back." I spun around. Nothing but the fog. My headlights flickered again, drawing my attention forward, and that's when I saw something in the middle of the road ahead. A shape. A figure. It looked like a child standing perfectly still, facing me. Barefoot. Clothes soaked, head slightly tilted. I froze. Every instinct screamed to get back in the car. But the moment I moved, the figure twitched. Its head lifted slowly, and even through the mist, I could tell the face was wrong, too pale, the mouth hanging open as if mid-scream, though no sound came out. I jumped into the driver's seat and slammed the lock. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear the engine turning over. The car finally started. As I hit the gas, the headlights caught the figure one last time, but now it was standing on the side of the road, right where the fog began. Watching me leave. I didn't look back again. The road straightened, but I couldn't tell if I was moving forward or in circles. Every few minutes, the same burn sign appeared, the same twisted trees, the same feeling that something unseen was pacing me just beyond the light. Then, suddenly, through the fog ahead, I saw taillights. A vehicle, maybe half a mile away. Relief hit me so hard it made me dizzy. I pressed harder on the gas. As I drew closer, my heart sank. It was the same car. The same dented rear bumper. The same broken left taillight blinking weakly in the dark. I drove past without stopping. For the first time, I understood, I wasn't just lost. I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. Somewhere that didn't end. The clock on the dashboard blinked once. 12:03. The forest finally broke open into a field, a dark, open space smothered by fog. I didn't remember taking any turns, yet the road curved wider now, like it was leading me somewhere I hadn't chosen. The engine's hum had become uneven, every few seconds dropping into a low, trembling tone. My eyes were raw from staring at the white haze for too long. I leaned forward, squinting at the road, and noticed faint skid marks across the asphalt, fresh ones, cutting side to side like someone had lost control. I slowed, following them with my lights until they ended at a patch of crushed grass. That's when I saw the wreck. It was half sunk in the mud, an old sedan, same model as mine but colorless under the mist. The windshield was spiderwebbed. The front end was torn open like something had dragged it there. I pulled over slowly, feeling every nerve in my body tighten. The air around the car felt wrong, too still, too heavy. I stepped out and walked toward it. The fog thinned enough for me to see that the car's license plate was covered in dirt, unreadable. The doors hung open. Inside, everything was burned black except the dashboard clock, frozen on the same time as mine, 12:03. On the back seat lay a child's toy, a small plastic truck, melted and warped by heat. I stared at it, frozen. My chest felt tight, my ears ringing in the silence. Then, a sound. Behind me, the crunch of gravel. I turned around fast, but the road was empty. My headlights cut through the fog and died halfway into it. I looked back at the wreck. The back door was now closed. I was sure it had been open when I walked up. Something was moving inside. The window was too dark to see through, but I could hear it, slow shifting, like fabric dragging against metal. I took a step backward, heart slamming. Then came a faint voice, muffled but unmistakable. A child whispering, "Help me." I froze. The voice sounded weak, distant, like it was buried under the wreckage. I reached for the door handle before I even thought about it. The moment my hand touched the metal, it burned. I jerked it away, pain flaring up my palm. The door stayed shut. The whisper came again, this time closer, right against the glass. "Help me." I stumbled back. My headlights flickered once, and for a heartbeat, I saw my own reflection in the car window, only it wasn't my reflection. The man staring back had my face, but his skin was pale and cracked with soot. His eyes were empty. The lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. I turned toward where my car had been parked, but all I could see was gray. I started walking, but every direction looked the same. My shoes sank into wet soil, and the fog thickened until I couldn't see my hands. Then my foot hit something hard. I looked down. Metal. My car. But it wasn't where I'd left it. It was half turned toward the wreck, headlights dimmed but still glowing. The driver's door was wide open. I climbed in quickly, slamming it shut behind me. My breath fogged the glass, and for a few seconds I sat completely still, trying to hear past the pounding in my head. Nothing. No footsteps, no voices. I started the engine. It coughed once, then caught. The headlights flared to life, and through the fog ahead, I could just make out the other car, the wreck, gone. Only the imprint of its tires in the mud remained. I pressed the gas. The tires spun before gripping the wet road, throwing mud behind me. The fog twisted in the mirrors like smoke from a fire. A few minutes later, I saw lights ahead, faint yellow ones. Relief washed through me. Civilization. Maybe a farmhouse, or another gas station. I drove faster, ignoring how the road beneath me started to vibrate like gravel. The lights grew closer until I recognized the sign out front. My heart dropped. It was the same gas station I had stopped at before. Same flickering neon sign, same crooked lamp over the door. Only now the building looked different, abandoned. The windows were shattered, the roof half collapsed. The sign still glowed faintly, buzzing weakly against the dark. I parked and stepped out slowly. The cold air hit me again, sharp and metallic. The station door hung open, creaking in the wind. I stepped inside. Everything was covered in dust. The shelves were empty. The smell of burnt wood filled the air. Behind the counter, the same old man's coffee mug sat in a pile of ash, melted at the handle. My throat tightened. I walked back outside. The fog had closed in again, swallowing the road. My headlights were the only light left. I turned to get back into the car, and stopped. Across the windshield, written in the thin layer of mist, were 5 words traced by a finger. "You shouldn't have come back." I stood frozen, staring at the message as it began to fade. The air felt alive again, humming softly, the way it had before the crash. I wiped the words away with my sleeve, climbed inside, and locked the doors. The dashboard clock still read 12:03. The fog had turned solid, like a wall pressing against the glass. My headlights barely cut through it anymore. I kept the car moving, one hand gripping the wheel, the other trembling near the gearshift. The message on the windshield, "You shouldn't have come back," was still burned into my mind, even though I had wiped it away. I didn't know where I was anymore. The GPS was dead, the clock still frozen at 12:03. Every sign, every bend in the road looked the same. My thoughts kept circling back to the wreck, the burned-out car, the child's voice. It felt less like I had found something and more like something had found me. I tried talking out loud just to hear my own voice. "I'm leaving. I'm getting off this road. I'm done." But the words came out hoarse, shaky, and even as I said them, I wasn't sure they were true. Up ahead, through the haze, a flicker of light appeared, red and blue. Police lights. Relief surged through me so hard it almost hurt. I hit the gas and followed the glow until the shapes took form, 2 patrol cars parked across the road, blocking both lanes. I stopped a few yards away, engine idling. 2 figures stood in front of the cars, flashlights aimed at me. One of them raised a hand, motioning for me to roll down my window. I did, halfway. "Thank God," I said, voice cracking. "I'm lost. I've been driving in circles for hours. There's a wreck back there." The officer stepped closer, his beam cutting across my face. His expression didn't change. He leaned down, eyes narrowing. "Sir, can you step out of the vehicle?" I hesitated. Something about his tone wasn't right, flat, practiced, like someone reciting lines. "I didn't do anything," I said quietly. "I just need help getting out of here." He didn't answer. His flashlight shifted to my license plate, then back to the windshield. Behind him, the second officer was talking into a radio, but the words didn't sound like English. It was low, rhythmic, like a chant under his breath. "Sir," the first one said again, his voice distant now, distorted. "Step out of the car." My gut twisted. I looked down for a moment, just a heartbeat, and when I looked back up, both men were gone. The cruisers, too. The red and blue lights were still spinning, but they were coming from nowhere. Just hanging in the fog, fading in and out like reflections on water. The road ahead was empty. My breathing turned shallow. I put the car in reverse, but when I looked behind me, my headlights caught something that made my blood stop cold. Another car was there. Parked in the middle of the lane. My car. Same dented fender, same cracked taillight. I turned around fast. The seat beside me was empty, but the smell of smoke filled the air, thick, bitter, choking. The dashboard lights flickered violently. The engine sputtered and died. Silence. Then, faintly, from outside, I heard it again, the soft tapping on the trunk. 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate. My hands shook as I reached for the door handle, but before I could move, a voice spoke, calm and close, from the back seat. "You've already stopped." I froze. The mirror was fogged, but a shadow shifted behind me, just barely visible in the dim glow from the dashboard. A child's outline, sitting perfectly still. My throat went dry. "What do you want?" I whispered. The voice answered, almost gently. "You took the road. Now it keeps you." The headlights flashed once, blinding white. I covered my eyes. When the light faded, I was no longer in the car. I was standing on the side of the road. The fog was thinner now, the air still and heavy. My car sat a few yards away, engine off, doors closed. Through the windshield, I saw myself sitting behind the wheel, motionless, eyes open, staring straight ahead. The sound of a distant engine rolled through the mist. Headlights appeared in the distance, another driver coming this way. For a moment, the beam caught my reflection in the glass of my own car, but it wasn't me anymore. The face was pale, eyes hollow, mouth slightly open like it was trying to speak. The approaching vehicle slowed as it neared, its horn giving a short, uncertain beep. A man leaned out his window and called, "You okay?" I wanted to scream, to warn him, but no sound came out. I wasn't there to speak anymore. The fog moved between us, soft and slow, and the man's car rolled closer. His brake lights flashed red once, then stayed still. Another driver had just entered the road. By morning, County 17 was quiet again. No one saw the crashed sedan half hidden in the ditch. No one heard the child's voice. No one noticed that the mile marker near the curve was gone. And at exactly 12:03, the dashboard clock in the wreck flickered once, then went dark.